Imagine an actor who literally becomes the character, gaining 60 pounds to play a broken boxer, learning a dead regional dialect to play a rising mafia boss, and sleeping in a moving taxi cab to understand a paranoid, sleep-deprived veteran. This is not a myth created by studio publicists, it is the daily, grueling reality of a man who redefined the very concept of acting. He did not just memorize lines or hit his marks, he consumed souls, transforming the gritty, unforgiving streets of New York into the ultimate training ground for psychological realism. His journey from a troubled, street-smart youth in Greenwich Village to the most revered, feared, and imitated figure in Hollywood history is a masterclass in absolute, uncompromising dedication. To understand his legacy is to understand the evolution of modern cinema, a medium where the line between the artist and the art completely dissolves into a singular, unforgettable, and often terrifying illusion. Born in the heart of Manhattan in the summer of 1943, his childhood was steeped in the bohemian, fiercely artistic atmosphere of Greenwich Village. His parents were both painters, surrounding him with a creative environment that valued raw expression and keen observation over traditional academic success or societal conformity. However, their marriage was deeply turbulent, ending in a bitter divorce when he was just a toddler. Raised primarily by his mother in a gritty, vibrant neighborhood, he was a restless, often rebellious child who felt entirely out of place in conventional settings. He struggled in traditional schools, finding the rigid structure suffocating and the academic expectations meaningless. Instead of conforming to the expectations of his peers and teachers, he found his true education on the streets of Little Italy. He spent his formative years absorbing the cadences, the defensive body language, and the raw, unfiltered reality of the working-class immigrants, the local tough guys, and the colorful characters who populated his neighborhood. These early observations would later become the foundational blueprint for his most iconic and enduring characters. The turning point in his life arrived almost by accident when a high school friend dragged him to an acting audition for a school play. Initially reluctant and entirely untrained, he discovered that the stage was the only place where his intense, often chaotic, and highly combustible energy could be channeled into something meaningful and controlled. He dropped out of high school at 16 to pursue acting seriously, immersing himself in the legendary, hallowed acting studios of New York City. He studied under the rigorous tutelage of Stella Adler and later the legendary Lee Strasberg, mastering the complex, deeply psychological techniques of method acting. This demanding training taught him to draw upon his own emotional memories, to live truthfully under the most extreme imaginary circumstances, and to completely dismantle his own ego to serve the narrative. He spent years working in dusty off-Broadway theaters, taking minor, uncredited roles in low-budget independent films, and honing his craft in the shadows while his more conventionally handsome peers chased immediate, superficial fame. His relentless perseverance and undeniable raw talent finally paid off in the early 1970s when a young, visionary director recognized his untamed potential and cast him in gritty, underground crime films. However, his true ascension to the global stage occurred when he was cast in the sequel to a cinematic masterpiece that had already changed the film industry forever. The challenge he faced was monumental and highly intimidating. He had to portray the younger version of a character originally made immortal by another legendary actor, and he had to do it entirely in a Sicilian dialect he did not initially speak. He traveled to Sicily for months, immersing himself completely in the local culture, studying the ancient dialect, and closely observing the physical mannerisms, the guarded posture, and the quiet menace of the older men in the villages. When the film was released, his performance was an absolute revelation. He did not merely imitate the older actor, he created a completely new, deeply sympathetic, and terrifyingly ruthless portrait of a young immigrant rising through the violent criminal underworld. This breathtaking achievement earned him his first Academy Award, instantly establishing him as a generational talent and a force to be reckoned with. Yet, it was his next collaboration with a brilliant, uncompromising filmmaker that cemented his status, as a global cultural icon, and a pioneer of psychological realism on screen. He immersed himself completely in the role of a deeply disturbed, profoundly alienated veteran driving a cab through the neon-lit, decaying, and dangerous streets of 1970s New York. He actually obtained a real cab driver's license, worked grueling 12-hour shifts on the night shift, and studied the psychological profiles of paranoid, isolated individuals to understand their mindset. The resulting performance was a masterclass in internal tension and simmering violence. His improvised monologue in front of a mirror, drawing a gun and talking to his own reflection, became one of the most analyzed, parodied, and replicated moments in film history. He captured the profound loneliness and explosive rage of a man pushed to the absolute edge of a society he could no longer understand, delivering a performance that was as terrifying as it was deeply tragic. This iconic role earned him his second Academy Award nomination and forever changed the landscape of American cinema, proving that a leading man could be deeply flawed, morally ambiguous, and utterly compelling. The partnership with this visionary director would become one of the most fruitful, intense, and historically significant in the history of filmmaking. Together, they explored the dark, violent, and deeply flawed corners of the American male psyche, creating a body of work that redefined the crime genre. But it was their next project that pushed the boundaries of physical and psychological transformation to an unprecedented, almost dangerous level. To portray a real-life middleweight boxing champion whose career and personal life were derailed by his own destructive appetites and rage, the actor underwent a grueling physical and mental metamorphosis. He trained relentlessly to achieve the physique of a professional fighter, taking thousands of actual punches to the face to ensure the boxing scenes looked brutally authentic. But the true shock came when he completely let himself go, gaining over 60 pounds to portray the character in his later, obese, and deeply pathetic years. This extreme dedication was not a superficial gimmick, it was a profound, heartbreaking exploration of aging, regret, and the devastating physical toll of a life lived without restraint or self-control. The performance is widely considered one of the greatest, most transformative achievements in the history of the medium. As the decades progressed, he proved that his immense talents were not confined solely to the dark, violent, or tragic roles that had initially made him famous. He navigated the complex, sprawling narratives of epic crime sagas, portraying the meticulous, cold-blooded thieves and the ruthless, calculating mob bosses with a chilling, quiet intensity that commanded every scene he was in. He brought a profound sense of melancholy, nostalgia, and tragic inevitability to tales of forgotten gangsters, capturing the sorrow of men who built vast empires only to watch them crumble in the face of the modern world and federal indictments. Yet, he also possessed a brilliant, often highly surprising comedic timing that few critics had anticipated. He masterfully subverted his own intimidating, fearsome persona to play hilarious, high-strung mobsters in therapy and overprotective, deeply paranoid fathers-in-law, proving that his mastery of human behavior extended seamlessly to the realms of satire, farce, and mainstream comedy. He became a master of the subtle glance, the slight shift in posture, and the unspoken tension that crackled beneath the surface of every interaction. Beyond the silver screen, his impact on the cultural, civic, and artistic landscape of his beloved city has been equally profound and enduring. In the devastating aftermath of a tragedy that struck the very heart of New York, he co-founded a film festival designed to revitalize the Lower Manhattan neighborhood, support the local economy, and celebrate the enduring, healing power of storytelling. This initiative grew into a major global cultural event, providing a vital, highly respected platform for independent filmmakers, and a beacon of hope and resilience for a city in deep mourning. He has remained a fierce, vocal advocate for the arts, using his immense influence and financial resources to support live theater, preserve cinematic history, and nurture the next generation of cinematic visionaries. His production company has championed countless projects that might otherwise have never seen the light of day, ensuring that diverse, challenging, and artistically rigorous stories continue to be told in an increasingly commercialized industry. Today, As he navigates the later chapters of his extraordinary life, he remains a towering, formidable presence both on and off the screen. He has embraced the digital age, utilizing groundbreaking, highly controversial de-aging technology to portray characters across multiple decades in epic crime sagas, proving that his willingness to push the boundaries of his craft and embrace new technologies remains entirely undiminished. He has also become a highly vocal, unapologetic figure in the political and social discourse of his time, using his massive platform to speak out passionately against the issues and political figures he feels most strongly about, regardless of the backlash or the potential impact on his career. The legacy of this extraordinary artist is permanently etched into the very DNA of modern cinema. He is the ultimate chameleon, a man who has inhabited dozens of completely different lives, each one rendered with a terrifying, beautiful, and uncompromising authenticity. From the rain-slicked, dangerous streets of a decaying New York to the sun-drenched, violent landscapes of the criminal underworld, he has shown us the darkest, most complex, and most beautiful corners of the human soul. He did not just act in the movies, he lived them, breathed them, and bled for them, leaving behind a monumental body of work that will continue to challenge, inspire, and haunt audiences for all of eternity.